Hello, this is Mrs. Groves. We're going to go over the 7.2 homework assignment, which was solving systems using the substitution method. I'm going to quickly go through the 4 even problems, and then you're going to do a warm-up to make sure that you understand the substitution method. I'm not going to go through the problems 4, 8, and 14. I'm going to show you the solutions and explain them to you quickly. But I will focus on 32, which is a word problem. So for number 4, y was already isolated. So you're simply going to take the 2x minus 1 and put it into the other equation. So you should have had 2x plus y is replaced with 2x minus 1 equals 3. You get x is 1, y is 1, and you must check both equations. So that's the answer to number 4. And number 8, in this case again, y was isolated. So you simply had to take the 10x minus 8, replace it into the other equation, which is for y. So you should have gotten negative 5x plus 3, and in parentheses 10x minus 8 equals 51. Solve for x. You get x is equal to 3. Take this 3, put it back into this equation for y, and you're going to get y is 22, and then you check both equations. So the answer to number 8, x is 3, y is 22. Number 14 was a little bit more challenging, because you had to take one of these equations, right? And you had to isolate it for x or y. And I chose to take the first equation, and basically I took this equation right here, the 9x minus y equals 33, because that would have been the easiest equation to isolate. I added y to both sides, and so I got my equation, y equals 9x minus 33. So these were the 2 original equations, and so this would have been the easiest one to isolate. So you should have gotten y, no matter how you did it, y equals 9x minus 33. You take this result, plug it in for y into the other equation, solve for x, get x is 4. Now that I know x is 4, I'm going to go through and find the value of y. Y is 3. And then you check in both original equations. Now, when we go over these homework problems, if you did not understand how to do them, make sure that you write down what the answer is. So in this case, the answer is x is 4, y is 3. And when you get your homework back, make sure to go back and try to do these even problems so that you're prepared for the test. The best way to study for a test in math is to do practice problems. So now I'm going to go to the word problem that you were given on tubing. Now, whenever you do a word problem, the first thing I want you to do is to write down the key information. Now, this is for problem number 32. And I will go through and do this one because word problems are important. So the key information you should have found by doing this problem, and when you're doing your homework, this part you should always be able to do. It costs $15 for a tube, and that's a tube for people to go down on this tubing trip. It costs $7.50 for a cooler tube, for your food and drinks. You spent $360 and rented 26 tubes. So that's your key information. Then you have to define X and Y. And so X is going to be, from the question, how many of each type of tubes do they rent? Okay. X is the number of tubes, the ones for people, and Y is the number of cooler tubes. Then you have to write your equations. Now in this case, the key pieces of information that they gave you is you're going to have two types of equations. Okay? One is the number of tubes equation, because they told you that you had 26 tubes. But you don't know how many are regular tubes and how many are cooler tubes. So, you know that X plus Y has to be 26. And then you have an equation for dollars spent. So in this equation right here, dollars spent for a regular tube, it's $15. And for a cooler tube, which is Y, it's $7.50 or 7.5. And you spent $360. Right? So those are your two equations. And we want you to solve with substitution. So you could solve this using X or Y and isolating those. So I'm going to pick the first equation. X plus y equals 26. And most of the time we're most familiar with isolating for y. So I'm going to subtract x from both sides, and I'm going to get y equals negative x plus 26. Or you could have said y equals 26 minus x. It doesn't matter which one. So now we're going to go to the other equation, and where we see the y, we're going to replace this negative x plus 26. So 15x plus 7.5 times negative x plus 26 equals 360. You're going to distribute 15x minus 7.5x plus $195 equals 360. $7.5x combined like terms plus 195 equals 360. Subtract 195. 7.5x is equal to 165. Divide by 7.5. And we get x is equal to 22. Now, we would expect that there will not be any fractions because you cannot have part of a tube. So we have 22 tubes for the people. Okay. Then we want to find y. Well, that's easy. Y equals negative 22 plus 26, so y is equal to 4. And you could have done that mentally. Now, it's a good idea to check to see if this makes sense. Our first equation is with tubes. If we have 22 people tubes and 4 cooler tubes, well, that's equal to 26. So 26 equals 26. Cha-ching, checks. Outstanding. Then we check the other equation. Okay. The other equation, we're going to have 15 times the 22 people, or the 22 regular tubes, plus 7.5 times 4 equals 360. So you use your handy dandy calculator. And I don't have mine readily available, so I'm going to get my calculator. I'll be right back. So 15 times 22 is 330. So they spent $330 on the tubes. And for 4 plus $30 for the cooler tubes, for a total of 360. Those 360 equals 360. Cha-ching, it checks. And so you answer in words. Okay. They used 22 tubes and 4 cooler tubes. So that is your final answer. In this chapter, we are going to be doing a lot of word problems. And when you're doing a word problem, you should be using at least a full page or half a page. Right. So that's the answer to 32. Hand in your homeworks, and then we'll go on to the next activity.